Hey NFL fans, before we dive into today's hottest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update from NFL News Now. There are moments in a football season that define not only a team's destiny, but also the emotional heartbeat of its locker room. For the Philadelphia Eagles, that defining moment came in Week 6 at US Bank Stadium, under the glaring lights of Minnesota, with a coach who refused to let his team crumble under the weight of recent disappointments. After two consecutive losses that shook the confidence of fans and players alike, head coach Nick Sirianni knew this matchup against the Vikings wasn't just another game on the schedule. It was a test of resilience, character, and pride. And when the final whistle blew, and the scoreboard flashed 28-22 in favor of Philadelphia, Sirianni exploded. He stormed into the locker room, eyes wide with adrenaline and heart still pounding from the chaos of the final quarter, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Turn that S*** up." It wasn't just a celebration. It was a release, a cathartic scream of defiance from a man who had been on the brink and fought his way back. To understand why this one mattered so much, you have to rewind a bit. The Eagles began the season like the reigning champions they are, slicing through opponents with precision and swagger. 4 straight wins to open the year had the city of Philadelphia buzzing with dreams of another Super Bowl run. Jalen Hurts looked sharp, the offensive line was holding strong, and the defense was playing with the same ferocity that made them one of the most feared units in the league last season. But then came the crash. First, a stunning loss to the Denver Broncos, a game where nothing seemed to click. Then, an even more gut-wrenching defeat to the division rival New York Giants, who exposed cracks in Philadelphia's armor. Suddenly, that aura of invincibility was gone. The critics started whispering and then shouting. Were the Eagles overrated? Had they lost their edge? And right in the middle of that storm stood Nick Sirianni, his jaw clenched, refusing to give in to the noise. Heading into Minnesota, the pressure was suffocating. The Vikings, coming off a bye week and energized after 2 overseas games, were eager to pounce on a wounded opponent. Their fans filled US Bank Stadium with that trademark purple haze, creating a noise so loud it vibrated through the turf. For the Eagles, this wasn't just about X's and O's, it was about guts, about proving that a couple of stumbles didn't erase who they were. Sirianni knew he needed his leaders to step up, and none did so more dramatically than quarterback Jalen Hurts. From the opening drive, Hurts played like a man possessed, carving up the Vikings' secondary with surgical precision. He completed 19 of 23 passes for 326 yards, tossing 3 touchdowns in one of the most efficient and dominant performances of his career. Every time Minnesota tried to close the gap, Hurts answered with a statement throw, the kind that makes defenses question their very game plan. His connection with Devonta Smith was electric. The chemistry between the two felt almost telepathic, as if Smith could sense exactly when and where Hurts needed him to be. The young wideout finished with 9 catches for 183 yards and a touchdown, turning defensive backs inside out with his crisp routes and blistering acceleration. On one particularly memorable play late in the second quarter, Smith streaked down the sideline, caught a perfectly placed ball in stride, and danced around 2 defenders before finally being dragged down just shy of the end zone. Moments later, Hurts found tight end Dallas Goedert in the corner for a touchdown that sent the Eagles' sideline into a frenzy. The swagger was back, that unmistakable energy that defines Philadelphia football. But this game wasn't just about the offense clicking again. It was about a defense that bent but never broke. The Vikings, led by quarterback Kirk Cousins, moved the ball effectively between the 20s. They racked up yardage, kept the chains moving, and gave their fans plenty to cheer about. But once they entered the red zone, it was like hitting a brick wall. The Eagles' defense tightened up with ruthless efficiency. 6 red zone trips for Minnesota resulted in just 1 touchdown, a 1-yard plunge by Jordan Mason late in the third quarter. Every other time, they had to settle for field goals. That's 5 drives that could have changed the entire complexion of the game, each ending with the thud of Will Richard's right foot instead of the roar of a touchdown celebration. And that was the difference. That was the grit. A huge part of that defensive stand came from second-year cornerback Cooper DeJean, who was playing like a seasoned veteran. He racked up 8 tackles, flying around the field with the kind of reckless abandon that Philadelphia fans live for. But his defining moment came in the second quarter when Justin Jefferson, one of the league's most dangerous receivers, appeared to have a touchdown in his hands. Cousins launched a beautiful pass to the corner of the end zone, the crowd rising in anticipation, and then Dejan leaped, outstretched, and got just enough of the ball to deflect it away. The silence that followed inside the stadium was deafening. It was a statement play, the kind of defensive stand that doesn't just save points, but ignites belief. After that, the Vikings' offense seemed just a little bit more hesitant, a little more frustrated. When the clock finally hit 0, the Eagles didn't just win a football game. They reclaimed their identity. And nobody embodied that raw emotion more than Sirianni. Cameras caught him on the sideline in those final seconds, pacing like a caged lion, shouting encouragement to his players, fists pumping with every defensive stop. The man wears his heart on his sleeve, always has. But when he walked into that locker room after the game, it wasn't calculated emotion. It was pure instinct. He turned the corner, heard the bass thumping through the walls, and let it all out. "Turn that S*** up," he screamed, his voice hoarse, his smile wide. The players erupted. Helmets were tossed, water bottles flew, and laughter echoed through the room. It wasn't just a celebration of victory. It was an exorcism of frustration, a collective sigh of relief that all the doubt and second-guessing could finally be drowned out by the sound of victory. That's the thing about this Eagles team. They feed off emotion. When they play with passion, when they play loose, they're almost unstoppable. Sirianni knows that better than anyone. He's not the type to hide behind coach speak or robotic professionalism. He feels every win and loss deep in his bones, and his players respond to that authenticity. After the game, he told reporters that he was proud of the way his team fought through adversity, but you could see it in his eyes. This one meant more. It wasn't about stats or standings. It was about reaffirming belief, about silencing the creeping fear that maybe, just maybe, the magic from last season was gone. Well, it's not gone. It's alive and well. And if this game was any indication, the rest of the league better start paying attention again. For Hurts, this performance was another chapter in his ongoing evolution as a franchise quarterback. The poise, the precision, the calm under pressure, it all showed up when his team needed it most. Every time the Vikings made a push, Hurts had an answer. Whether it was a perfectly timed deep shot to Smith, a scramble that extended a drive, or a check down that kept the offense ahead of the chains, he played with the kind of control that makes defenses feel helpless. It's that quiet confidence that separates good quarterbacks from great ones. And on this night in Minneapolis, Hurts looked every bit the superstar the Eagles believe him to be. And let's not overlook the subtle but crucial adjustments made by the coaching staff. After being criticized for predictable play calling in the 2 losses, Sirianni and offensive coordinator Brian Johnson mixed things up beautifully. The tempo varied. The formations were creative. There were moments where the offense felt almost experimental, motioning players pre-snap, disguising intentions, keeping the Vikings guessing. It wasn't flashy for the sake of it. It was smart football. Meanwhile, on defense, coordinator Sean Desai dialed up pressure at just the right times. His front 4 harassed Cousins all night, collapsing the pocket and forcing hurried throws that threw off the Vikings' rhythm. It was a complete team effort, the kind of win that reminds everyone what this group is capable of when every unit does its job. In the grand scheme of the season, it's just one win. But emotionally, it feels like so much more. It's the kind of victory that resets a team's mindset, that reignites the hunger. The Eagles leave Minnesota not just with a 5-2 record, but with the fire that had flickered over the past 2 weeks burning bright again. And as they head back to Philadelphia, that image of Nick Sirianni, wild-eyed and shouting for the music to be turned up, will stick with them. It's the perfect symbol of this team's identity, passionate, relentless, unapologetically emotional. The Eagles may have stumbled, but they never lost who they are. And now, with the noise turned all the way up, the rest of the NFL better brace for the sound of Philadelphia coming back to life. Keep watching as we analyze more details about some rumors. There's a storm brewing in Philadelphia, and it's one that could shake the very foundation of the Eagles roster as we know it. Whispers have been circulating around the league, bouncing from social media leaks to insider chatter, suggesting that Jalen Hurts, the man who has become the heartbeat of the franchise, might be preparing to leave the Eagles once the 2025 season comes to a close. It's the kind of rumor that fans hope is false but can't entirely ignore. The kind of speculation that keeps every Eagles supporter glued to their phones and every NFL analyst up at night. Hurts has been more than just a quarterback for Philadelphia. He's been a symbol of resilience, of offensive ingenuity, of a team's identity reshaped around his dual-threat brilliance. The idea of him walking away isn't just a personnel change. It's seismic, a jolt that could redefine the NFC East and ripple across the entire league. Sources close to the situation, though unnamed, hint that contract negotiations have reached an impasse, and there's a sense that the relationship between Hurts and the Eagles' front office, though publicly cordial, may have quietly grown tense over the last year. The whispers talk about cap space, long-term vision, and perhaps most intriguingly, Hurts' own ambitions to step into a system that fully capitalizes on his unique skill set, a system that might be waiting somewhere else, beyond the city limits of Philadelphia. The timing of this potential departure is what really fuels the speculation. 2025 has been a roller coaster for the Eagles, with moments of brilliance shadowed by a few untimely losses and controversial decisions that have sparked debates on every sports talk show from coast to coast. Hurts has carried the team in ways that go beyond statistics, making clutch plays, scrambling when the pocket collapses, and delivering late-game heroics that have redefined what it means to be a leader on the field. Yet, with each highlight reel moment, the murmurs grow louder. Is this enough for Hurts to consider staying, or is it merely the calm before a storm that leads him elsewhere? The rumor mill suggests that other franchises are circling, intrigued by a quarterback who's not just talented but battle-tested, a dual threat who could redefine another team's offensive philosophy overnight. There's talk, too, about the Eagles' salary cap constraints, the looming need to invest in other positions, and whether the front office can reconcile building a championship-caliber team around Hurts while also managing the financial realities that come with retaining an elite quarterback in today's market. Adding another layer to the intrigue is Hurts' own trajectory. Analysts have pointed out that while he has grown exponentially as a passer, his mobility remains one of his greatest assets. Some whispers suggest that Hurts may be seeking a system that not only embraces his dynamic running ability, but also provides the kind of coaching and offensive flexibility that maximizes every inch of his skill set. That kind of system, insiders speculate, might not exist in Philadelphia forever, which adds fuel to the notion that he could be tempted by greener pastures. The NFL is, after all, a league of opportunity and timing, and the timing of Hurts' potential exit is particularly delicate. The Eagles have built a team around him, yes, but the league has a way of turning even the most promising projects into rebuilding stories if a franchise mismanages its star talent. The idea that Hurts could walk away sends shivers down the spines of Eagles fans, who have invested emotionally and financially in the dream of seeing him lead this team deep into the playoffs, perhaps even to the Super Bowl stage. Now, all that hope is tinged with the uncertainty of a possible farewell. Rumors about a player of Hurts' caliber are always amplified in the offseason, but this one feels different. The sources behind the whispers are careful, not throwing around definitive statements, but rather framing the scenario as a delicate dance of contracts, ambitions, and untapped possibilities. There's a sense that the Eagles organization may have underestimated the strategic patience Hurts now brings to the table. He's no longer the young quarterback hungry merely for experience. He's a player with proven results, with a growing legacy, and with an eye on a career trajectory that could include MVP-level recognition, deep playoff runs, and perhaps even a championship that cements his place among the league's elite. And yet, all of that might be achieved somewhere else if the Eagles don't make the adjustments that insiders suggest Hurts is quietly demanding. These are the kinds of details that fuel late-night debates and endless what-if threads across forums and social media platforms, leaving fans torn between optimism, disbelief, and the kind of cautious dread that accompanies rumors of major shakeups. What makes this potential departure even more compelling is the cultural impact Hurts has had on Philadelphia itself. He's more than a quarterback. He's become a symbol of the city's grit, a living embodiment of the resilience and tenacity that fans love to associate with the Eagles. Losing him would be about more than football strategy. It would be a cultural shift, a redefinition of what it means to root for the team that has held the hearts of its city in high regard for decades. The buzz online points to potential suitors. Teams that might be willing to offer Hurts not just a larger paycheck, but a fully customized offensive playbook designed around his strengths. Rumor has it that multiple franchises are preparing pitches that go beyond standard contract negotiations, proposing strategic visions, offensive schematics, and leadership opportunities that could appeal to a quarterback at the peak of his powers. Philadelphia, meanwhile, faces the delicate task of balancing fan expectations with strategic realities, and insiders hint that the front office is aware of the stakes, but may be constrained by factors beyond simple desire or sentiment. Adding yet another twist, the timing of the 2025 season could play a pivotal role in whether Hurts stays or departs. If the Eagles falter in key matchups, if injuries strike, or if the playoff picture doesn't align with Hurts' ambitions, the pressure could mount to consider alternatives outside the organization. Conversely, if Philadelphia dominates, the stakes get even higher. A championship-caliber season could give the Eagles leverage in negotiations, but it could also embolden Hurts to demand even more control over the offense or a contract structure befitting a quarterback of his caliber. Rumors suggest that talks between Hurts' camp and the Eagles' management have been sporadic, with bursts of optimism interspersed with stretches of silence that only feed speculation. Each week of the season, each headline, each post-game analysis becomes a new data point for fans trying to decode Hurts' intentions. The tension is palpable, almost cinematic, like the final act of a high-stakes drama that no one can fully script. In every conversation about the future of the Eagles, Hurts' name dominates, not just because of his talent, but because of what his potential departure represents, a crossroads moment for a franchise at the height of its ambition. Even within the locker room, sources suggest there's a quiet awareness of the rumor. Teammates reportedly express a mix of support and anxiety, knowing that Hurts' leadership has been central to the team's identity. Coaches, too, face a balancing act. How to motivate a squad in the face of uncertainty while maintaining a competitive edge week after week. Rumors abound that private conversations behind closed doors have touched on contingency plans, potential replacements, and even the emotional toll that a Hurts exit could take on a roster built around his energy and playmaking ability. Analysts predict that if the rumor materializes into reality, it won't just be a headline. It will trigger a cascade of moves across the NFL as teams reassess their strategies in light of one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in recent memory potentially hitting free agency. Every front office in the league will be watching, calculating, and dreaming about how to capitalize on a situation that, while devastating for Philadelphia, could be transformative elsewhere. And yet, for all the whispers, speculation, and rumor-fueled debates, one thing remains clear. Jalen Hurts' story in Philadelphia is far from finished, even if the end of 2025 might mark the closing of a particularly electrifying chapter. Whether the whispers are true, exaggerated, or entirely unfounded, they speak to the significance of Hurts' presence in the NFL, the value of his skill set, and the ripple effect that any move involving him would have across the league. Eagles fans are left with a complex cocktail of emotions: pride in what he has accomplished, fear of what could come next, and a simmering curiosity about where the winds of the NFL might carry him if he decides to leave. It's a rumor, yes, but it's a rumor with teeth, one that forces the league, the media, and the fans to confront the possibility of a world without Jalen Hurts in green and white, a scenario that, just a few years ago, might have seemed unimaginable. As the 2025 season unfolds, the drama only intensifies, and every pass, every scramble, every post-game interview becomes a potential clue in the unfolding saga of a quarterback whose career is as much about spectacle and ambition as it is about touchdowns and wins. In the end, whether Jalen Hurts stays or goes, the conversation around his future underscores the delicate dance between talent, ambition, and organizational vision in the NFL. It highlights how a single player can embody the hopes and fears of an entire city, how whispers can become narratives, and how the story of one quarterback can ripple far beyond the field, touching everything from franchise planning to fan culture to league-wide strategy. For now, all that can be done is to watch, to listen, and to speculate along with the rest of the world. The rumor may be just that, a rumor, but in the NFL, rumors have a funny way of becoming reality. And when the dust settles on the 2025 season, Philadelphia, and the rest of the league, may very well be left wondering if the man who has defined the Eagles' identity will finally hang up his wings and take his talents elsewhere. Until then, the city holds its breath, the analysts sharpen their theories, and the rumor of Jalen Hurts' departure remains the hottest topic in sports, echoing through stadiums, locker rooms, and living rooms alike. A story that feels bigger than football, a story that feels like destiny in motion. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow NFL fans. Stay tuned for more updates, only here on NFL News Now.